Joining me now on set is Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin is a CBSN political contributor and a reporter for Real Clear Politics. Time White House correspondent Zeke Miller is in the CBS News Washington bureau. And I want to turn now to CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid, who is in the Washington bureau. So, Paula, we heard Senator Al Franken say that there is no other reasonable conclusion than that Sessions was lying under oath. Do we expect his comments made during the hearing to go away anytime soon?
Absolutely not. I mean, a forced recusal is not the way you want to start your tenure as the Attorney General. Sessions was repeatedly asked whether or not he should recuse himself from these Russia probes. He repeatedly said that he did not think there was any precedent or any reason. And then a few hours after a Washington Post story, he recuses himself. Again, a forced recusal is really not the look you want when you're first starting out as the Attorney General. Now there are calls for him to return to Congress to answer more questions. And there's a lot of people who are not satisfied with the extent of his recusal. His recusal is for any investigations into the campaigns for President of the United States. Many people note that does not include all investigations that have to do with the White House or the administration. And for them, that is not sufficient. So, Elaine, no, this controversy is not going away anytime soon.
Well, Zeke, let me ask you, what is it that you're hearing in your post as a White House reporter?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of confusion over what is going on Capitol Hill, even within the White House, just what this investigation on Capitol Hill will cover. Certainly, Republicans are trying to follow the president's lead when he called for an investigation into sort of allegations against President Obama, the wiretapping allegations that we saw on Twitter over the weekend, and also some of the leaks we've seen that have been detrimental to President Trump's agenda. So that's what the White House wants Republicans to investigate. Republicans on Capitol Hill, a lot of them are singing a very different tune. But I think what was most interesting this week was the development from the White House when they called on Congress to investigate this. They were essentially blessing this investigation. Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary, said he wouldn't, necessarily commit the president to accepting that result. But at the same time, it makes it a lot harder for the president if this investigation does turn up anything on the president or people close to him to then back away from it because he has now essentially blessed it.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin, there are some pretty ambitious legislative goals, right, that the White House is aiming for here. I mean, how does all of this, you think, affect the White House's ability to go ahead and capitalize on whatever kind of momentum they felt they might have had?
Well, that's exactly right. Remember a week ago, President Trump delivered that address to the joint session, and that was widely praised. And Republicans the next morning thought, this is, our time. This is providing some much-needed momentum, as you say, for key legislative proposals. And so, a week later, they are also having these other tasks added to their already full plate. Tasks which, they don't really want to get involved in. The wiretapping, prime example, of course. And so they have a lot of things to do in a very short amount of time. Remember, they're going on a recess for Easter in just a few weeks and want to get Obamacare done before they go.
All right. Well, I want to play a bit of sound for you guys. Things got very heated between Senators Al Franken and Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley over Attorney General Sessions' testimony at January's confirmation hearing. Let's take a listen.
I asked him what he would do as Attorney General if it was true that members of the campaign had met with the Russians. So he says, I did not mention communications I had with the Russian ambassador over the years because the question did not ask about them. He answered a question I didn't ask. And for him to put this in his letter as a response is insulting. And he should come back and explain himself, Mr. Chairman.
I don't expect Senator Franken to act like I would towards our witnesses, but as I remember Senator Franken asking his question of Senator Sessions, he referred to something that there had just been something come on CNN that obviously, and Franken said that Senator Sessions wouldn't know what it was, and he was going to take that into consideration, that it would have been all right for you to ask your question, and you probably should have given him a chance to get the information you had and reflect on it and give an answer in writing. Now, the way I tend to, and you both of you know that I said this to you when you were in the privacy of my office. If I was going to ask you gotcha question, I was going to tell you about it ahead of time. And I consider what Senator Franken asked Sessions at that late moment that story just come out as a gotcha question. And
It was not a gotcha question, sir.
It was, from the standpoint that he didn't know what you were asking about.
But I said that as I was asking the question. I said you haven't heard this, and I don't expect that you have heard it.
Senator, tell us.
Look at the tape, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
please.
Mr. Chair.
All right, a heated exchange indeed. I want to go around and get each of your reactions. Paula, you first. What did you make of that?
Well, it's not unusual for a hearing for one person to become a proxy hearing about someone else. For example, for the confirmation of Attorney General Loretta Lynch, most of the questions were actually about former Attorney General Eric Holder. So it's not surprising here in a hearing for the Deputy Attorney General, there's all these questions about the Attorney General himself, because really that is the big controversy that now will be handed off to the nominee for Deputy Attorney General. He is now in charge of these Russia probes because Sessions has recused himself.
Zeke, what about you? I mean, there you had these two senators talking about this testimony back in January, and it was just fascinating to watch. You could feel sort of the temperature rising in that room as you watch that exchange.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a genuine amount of frustration on Senator Franken's part here that we've heard him communicate over the last couple of days. At the same time, this is a bit of a performance art for everyone involved. You know, obviously, as Paul mentioned, Attorney General now Sessions is not in the room there. This is always in these hearings, there's always a bit of playing for the cameras, and Senator Franken himself, is certainly no stranger to that. But it is interesting to watch sort of, how all of these hearings, this is not by any stretch non-standard practice. I mean, this is the way these hearings always on Capitol Hill end up this way, but how these proxy issues, these proxy fights happen in open hearings that have really nothing to do with the subject at hand. And I think for a lot of Americans watching at home, that might be confusing for them. And that's why these are moments that they're trying to capture that will show up on social media and fundraising emails and things like that, more so than actually trying to impact the outcome of these nominations, certainly.
Well, Caitlin, let me ask you. I mean, how genuinely concerned do you think Republicans are about this?
Well, most Republicans were calling for Sessions' recusal, but they were also kind of saying, wait a minute. I mean, they were largely coming to his defense. Remember, he is pretty popular among Republicans on Capitol Hill. They all supported him. He got one Democrat to support him, Joe Manchin. They did not want this to become about Sessions. They do not want Sessions to kind of be a lame duck, so to speak. They think that they can do a lot with him as Attorney General. So I think that's one interesting dynamic, is that Republicans, while they were calling for his recusal, also were coming to his defense and his integrity. But I think Zeke brings up an important point, which is Democrats need to seize any kind of momentum that they can find these days. And so they had seen that exchange. They had seen the flap that happened on Friday with Sessions as a way to kind of reclaim some of the ground that they've lost.
Paula, let me ask you, turning to Mr. Rosenstein's testimony there, do you think that the panel was satisfied with his answers with regards to the Russia investigation, where he sort of declined to commit one way or the other? When he was asked about this, it seemed to be a moment where neither side might have been satisfied.
Exactly. No one is going to be satisfied with his answer, because you have some people, for example, Senator Grassley, who say that a special counsel is not the way you want to go here because there's not enough transparency if no charges are actually brought. But then you have people on the other side of the aisle who are arguing, of course you need an independent body, because no one believes that a political appointee can really objectively handle this kind of probe. But the fact is, Elaine, he cannot answer whether or not he will appoint a special counsel because he hasn't become Deputy Attorney General yet. He has not actually been able to view all the facts, all the classified information that has been gathered so far in this case. He can't actually answer the question. So everybody goes home unsatisfied.
Well, Paula, let me ask you, if Mr. Rosenstein is confirmed he'll lead the Russia investigation, what kind of dynamic would that lead to, you think, between the Attorney General and his deputy?
Well, this is how the system is designed. The Deputy Attorney General, that's a very powerful position. That person actually runs the day-to-day operations of the Department of Justice and is set up to take on anything that the Attorney General needs to recuse him or herself from. So this is exactly the way it is supposed to work. I don't think there'll be anything unique about the dynamic, but they will certainly be very careful not to discuss the investigation or not to throw any more gas on this fire or really create any more controversy here.
All right, Justice reporter Paula Reid in Washington. Paula, thanks very much. We appreciate it.